Welcome to Codex History of Video Games. My name is Tyler Osby.
And I'm Mike Coletta.
And this week, we got a little bit of a different episode. We're going to talk about some Flash games.
Yeah, this is a discussion episode because, truth be told, I'm traveling this week, but we wanted to put something out. And I thought it would be fun because I've been doing some secret unofficial research.
I told you we can't be doing research off the books, Mike.
I know.
You're out of line.
I'm going out of book. I'm going rogue. It's pretty crazy. Because I've always wanted to do a series on Flash games. It's something we haven't really talked about, but it's very important to video games, especially now with mobile phones. I mean, that's really where we look at it.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff. That's where like the world of Flash games, the niche that it occupied back in the day is what like a lot of phone games occupy these days.
Definitely. So I thought this week we could just kind of talk about it, knowing that in the future we would do a straight up heavily researched episode about it, or episodes, because honestly, there's a lot to talk about here. So we're going to talk about like 4 or 5 of our favorite games that we actually played, and then kind of do a brief overview of what Flash was and what happened now and what was Flash. Like, what is it? What makes a Flash game? When somebody says I played this as a Flash game, like what does that mean? So Flash was a technology that was invented in, 1996 is the year. I did look that up, and it was made by a company. No, it was bought in 1996. It was created before then by Future Wave under the name Future Splash Player. It was then bought in 1996 by a company called Macromedia when they bought Future Wave.
Now, there's a name I've not heard in a long time.
Yeah, and then Adobe bought Macromedia in 2005. So a lot of people know it as Adobe Flash because Adobe had it for 15 years after they purchased Macromedia. Note, we have a date on it because it did end in 2020. But essentially, Flash let you play games in a browser on a toaster. You could play a Flash game on anything, and it was great because it opened the world up to a lot of people who hadn't played games on their computer before. It was
a platform that allowed you to make like really fancy like interactive websites too. A lot of websites would load up a Flash version of the website that had like fancy animations and effects and stuff, and then people would also make video games in that. But I think it was originally sort of meant to be like a replacement for HTML almost. Like you were supposed to make your websites in this technology.
And people found out that you could make games in it. And a lot of them were very like just silly drawn art, and they worked so well, and they're what we all know and love today. I know I have a big nostalgic spot in my heart for Flash games.
Oh yeah. You know why I think a lot of people have a nostalgic spot in their heart for Flash is because when you're a kid and you're in the computer lab at school and you don't have, this is before phones, right? So you don't have anything. Maybe you have a Game Boy, but you weren't busting that thing out in class.
You might have left
probably.
your TI-86 in your locker or whatever.
Yeah.
So
if you had a TI-83 with some games on it, you were really balling. But Flash games were something that you didn't need to install. You could load them very quickly, especially if you're at a school that had like better than dial-up internet. Like you could sort of play them stealthily if the teacher was on the other side of the classroom, and then like switch windows really quickly when they were, you could do it clandestinely. So I think people have like fond memories of these games that they would play to just waste time after they'd finish their work in class. After they'd finished their work in class, right? Not before. You weren't wasting time, right? Everybody's with me on this.
Of course, you always got your schoolwork done before you became an alt-tab ninja that could just switch windows as fast as possible. So I remember like sites like Newgrounds. Mm-hmm. That was actually the first. Like
Miniclip was big too.
Yeah, Addicting Games was a big one. So there are these kind of sites, and they would collect Flash games. But the coolest part about Flash games to me is they were just made by just usually 1 or 2 people. They were just fun little projects. And so many people got their start in video games through Flash.
They were like the original indie game.
They really were. Yeah. And what's crazy, and I watched a couple little like mini docs on it, and it really was like you'd make a Flash game in a week, you'd put it on Newgrounds, and the next week 100,000 people had played it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And you wouldn't be making a lot of money. In fact, Newgrounds and Addicting Games really just hosted your like game so you could play them, but they were obviously making ad revenue to keep the site up. But it wasn't for money, it was for the love of the game, which I don't completely agree with now because those people should have gotten paid. But I mean, it's kind of cool that's how they got their start, know? Well, and people played their game. Different time. We're talking mid to late 90s. like early
Early
2000s. Like we talked, both of us, Tyler and I, off air, that about how these games were college and high school for us. I think it's pretty good to fair.
I think I mean, you can still find Flash games online, so I hesitate to say they're like dead. You can't find them anymore. But really, I think what sort of killed the craze was like phones now, right? Now that you can have a phone, you can take it with you anywhere. You can have silly, simple games in your pocket, and you don't even need to load up a website anymore. And that kind of took the wind out of the Flash sales, I think.
It really did. But they're still existing. They're still alive. There are internet games that high school kids play on their Chromebooks. You know, I sound like an old man every time I talk about working at a school. I sound like a really old man. These kids, but they're definitely, I mean, it's funny because they're playing games like they play a fancy version of Snake when I'm just like, that's just not on a Nokia. You know, you don't know what you're doing. That's not back in my day, you know, but it still exists. Like there's games in browser, and especially with like Google Chrome and the advent of Chromebooks being in schools, like that's a whole thing. So, but
and when you have your own like little laptop, it's probably a lot easier to hide your gameplay. Maybe I don't know how.
Oh yeah, and a lot of like
the layout of a classroom full of laptops is. I know in like a computer lab, like we were all desktops when I was in high school, and so it was harder to hide your play.
Well, it's actually hard to hide your stuff now too, because there's apps for teachers like where you can look at everyone's screen.
Oh wow, totally ruining it for everybody.
I gotta say this, it's really fun. Like as a person working at a school, to just ruin a kid's time. Because they're like
you're
playing,
that guy.
Yeah, they're playing Snake, and I'm like, is that fun? Chris, is that a fun game? I don't have any students named Chris. Chris, is that fun? Just
and then they go no, and they turn it off immediately.
Yeah, and then watching this like terrified look on their face. Or sometimes I'll just close it because I have control of it too. I can like close their tabs.
Oh,
so I just close the tab and then I just watch their reaction. It's great. It's wonderful. I'm the Flash game police apparently, but it's really fun for me. And I mean, it's a part. I really do think part of the school experience is seeing what you can get away with.
Oh yeah,
and it's innocent and fun to play a game on the internet, and I'm not mad, you know. But it's fun because it's like, and there's kids that work around it. Like this really computer savvy students out there that figure out how to get away with it, you know. And it seems like one site gets blocked and another one pops up. So you're like, hey, you know, it's a problem, but it's like a fun problem. And it reminds me like, oh, I had that when I was in school. So I think these students should have it now that they're in school. It's like a part of growing up.
Experience.
Exactly.
Right. You got to figure out how to get around the filters and whatnot. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's different now, but it's still very, very much the same in the core way of it. But anyway, so we got on a tangent, but that's fine. It's a discussion episode. That's what they're all about. So I want to talk about our favorite Flash games. And I don't have the years on these. We're very much general. We can go into more detail at a different time if we do a whole episode. But we can just briefly talk about them.
I don't have too many like that I remember distinctly because there were so many of them, and like, you know, you would be switching between them so quickly that like I played a lot of Flash games, but I didn't play them for very long.
That's fine. Yeah.
There wasn't anything deep that like, oh man, I really sunk 100 hours into this Flash RPG.
Oh yeah.
Like,
I mean, a lot of these games I feel like I found and I was super into it for like a couple days, but in my mind I was like, I'm so into this game, you know. It's like that.
Yeah.
So the first one's like that. I know is like that because the first game is called Super Mario 63.
Oh, one less.
Yeah, it's a fan-made full Mario game, and it's one less because it's still like 2D, but it was really well done, and you could do like Super Mario 64 moves, like you could ground pound and like do like the triple jump. This was before you could do it in the other games, you know, because this is like 20, like probably late 2000s.
Okay.
I think the last update I saw for the game, because it's still on Newgrounds, was 2012, but I couldn't play it because I don't have Flash, so it makes sense. But this game is really fun, and it's also one of those things where you're like, oh, someone made a really cool fan game. And I've wanted to do episodes on fan games before, but I just want to cover this because I remember playing this game and being very surprised at how well done it was for a Flash game that one person made and put on Newgrounds.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that person probably had a lot of experience making games, and hopefully they were able to like parlay it into a job somewhere and, you know, developing games. That's something they can point to on their resume.
I hope so. You know, if you're like, I made Super Mario 63.
And I'm like, you're hired. Shake your hand.
Yeah, handshake. instantly wearing a suit, working. I don't know how it works. Do you want to do one of yours, Tyler, before I do my other one?
One of the few that I remember getting into in a more deeper way was Bubble Spinner and Bubble Spinner 2, where you like shoot a bubble kind of. It's sort of like I want to say like Bubble Bobble, where you like, you know how you like fire the bubble from the bottom and you try to hit.
Yeah, I loved Bubble Bobble or Bust a Move.
Yeah, Bust a Move, and you like try to hit the bubbles of the same color. And Bubble Spinner had like you would fire it from the top and it could bounce around the outside, but all of the pieces that you knocked away were like around a thing in the center, and it would spin as it got hit, like with physics, you know. So you would kind of angle your things and like try to spin it in a way that would be advantageous. But I played a lot of that because there were a few of us in college that like. This was when it was on Facebook, so it was still Flash, but it was on Facebook, and it had a social element to it of like a high score thing. So we would compete to outscore each other, and it felt like every day somebody was like walking into the green room, which we've talked about. I feel like the green room at Washington State University, just totally losing it that somebody had beaten their high score. And man, we sat around the table on our like MacBooks just trying to beat each other's score at Bubble Spinner, and got pretty good at it.
And that kind of, I think that's why I loved Flappy Bird so much when it came out on phones, is it gave me that feeling again of a Flash game where all your friends are together trying to beat it. Because for me, in that same green room, Tyler, was the game Robot Unicorn Attack.
Oh, man.
Do you remember this game? It was a craze. I don't know if you were in school yet. You might not have been in school. I feel like I was a sophomore or a junior at this point. And it was an endless runner, which is another thing that Flash did, is it kind of started the endless runner genre. Or made it popular again? Yeah,
there are a lot of genres of like things that are on phones now that were started in Flash, I feel like. But it was like a more wholesome, pure because they didn't have microtransactions or anything.
Yeah, it was just try to get the high score. You're just doing this game to kill time for a little bit of fun. That's all it was.
Yeah.
And so Robot Unicorn Attack, you are a robot unicorn. And it's an endless, you just start running and then you can jump and you can do a dash and you collect like butterflies. And there's rainbows and stars, and there's this really awesome pop song that plays that I don't want to sing because I don't know if we'll get sued. But I'll just say the lyrics.
It was like a real song, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's always I want to be with you and make believe with you and live in harmony.
Yeah, I remember. Harmony. Yeah.
Hold on. Yeah, it's really good. It's really great. And this game is just so fun. And occasionally this song will just pop into my head, and I'll have the wonderful memories of this. And we kind of could talk about this in the big episode, but Adult Swim produced this game.
Oh yeah, they were ahead of the curve there.
Yeah, and there were a lot of Adult Swim Flash games, and there were also a lot of kids Flash games for like Nickelodeon and stuff.
Oh
too.
Yeah, back in the day, that was like you would go to Nickelodeon.com in like the late 90s or like mid-late 90s. You would go to Nickelodeon.com or DisneyChannel.com or CartoonNetwork.com or whatever, and they would have like a games section because those websites were geared towards kids, and they would have like SpongeBob games. They would have games that weren't related to any of the cartoons. They just, I don't know, they must have hired some kid who made a game and was like, here's $20. We're going to take your game now. Is how I assume that deal went down. But yeah, I used to play games like that on websites. I can't remember any in particular because they're not very memorable, but I did play a lot of them.
Dude, it's really smart, I feel like, too, for a TV station because you have kids now loving your product even more. Like, they love SpongeBob SquarePants even more because they can play the game. The parents have a way to entertain their kid in a... Like, the Nickelodeon website's not going to have anything bad on it, you know? You could just have a kid on there. It's fine. And then Nickelodeon's making so much ad revenue probably from these kids.
Yeah, and it's way less like of a cost. Like if you wanted to make a Game Boy Advance game or a Game Boy Color game, like there was licensing costs. You had to pay Nintendo. You had to get a group of like real developers. For Flash, you could literally just hire a kid who was like trying to learn how to do things in Flash and like probably get a decent game that kids will play, you know, a few times, and that's fine.
Definitely. And again, the whole no microtransactions. So the mom knows there's nothing weird. Like they're not going to ask for the kid for the credit card information. They're just trying to get your ad revenue money. It's kind of a win-win-win for all three parties. Because as a kid, I love those games.
Free games, man.
Free games are free games. I still think about the games before Flash, like Space Cadet Pinball.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
that like I just loved that game.
Just the demo. That was on the one that came with XP was just the demo. There was a whole game you could pay for.
I should have bought it. I should have paid for it.
Me too. I got enough enjoyment out of the demo. I really should have bought it.
What an accident. Accident was made by me.
Man, back in the just like a side tangent on like free games, but like free games used to like not be really a thing. Like now free to play is a whole thing where like if you don't have money to spend on video games, there's plenty of stuff for you to play that you can put a lot of time into and like that are meaningful. But there was a time in the 2000s, like, you know, like early to mid 2000s where there were free, if it was a free game, you knew what, like you were getting what you paid for, right, in terms of quality. And sometimes they were still really fun. But it was like it was just a different time of like free games there weren't as many free games. So as a kid, it was like anytime you could find something that was free, you were like, yes, this is it. This is what I want. Everything's free now.
Yeah, totally. But everything is also like microtransactions.
Yep. Yeah, because they're not really free now, right? They were truly free back then, which is why they were not very good, because they were not making money off of it.
Do you know like the smell of like a hot computer? Like that kind of burning dust. Like nothing bad's happening, but those older computers get pretty hot.
With like a CRT monitor that gets really hot. And I know exactly what you're talking
smell
about.
that smell.
You can smell the static of the monitor has kind of a smell to it. Yeah.
That's when I smell that, I think of Space Cadet Pinball. Because that was me in like the basement of my house. We got our Gateway 2000 machine, and we were just hanging out, and I was just playing that game, and it was great. You know, it was, and that's like that smell is associated with that memory, I think, for me.
Not a care in the world.
Not a care in the world. Young me, not even realizing I would have a video game history podcast, just really in the moment of that off-brand Buzz Lightyear. Space Cadet Pinball.
Space Cadet Pinball.
The next game is a game that you and I have both played, which is exciting. And that is the helicopter game. Do you want to talk about the helicopter game? Yeah,
this one is good because it's just pure simplicity, right? You click to start you are a helicopter flying to the right of the screen, and there are obstacles in the way, and the controls are click the mouse to go up, don't click the mouse to fall. And there's like physics involved so that you kind of go up a little bit slower than you fall. And you just are dodging things and trying not to run into things. And a typical run, I guess for me, if you're like bad, might be 30 seconds, like maybe 30 seconds long. And then you would just die and you just start again immediately. And so it created this like really, like this feedback loop really of simple gameplay of just doing this. And you would compete with your friends for high scores. And like there's always one kid who just somehow had it figured out and was like, yes, I've been doing the same game for 2 hours straight. And you're like, I don't understand you.
And this is where Flappy Bird came from. 100%.
Yeah, it's basically Flappy Bird. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gosh.
So fun.
You told me about this and I was like, I don't know if I know the helicopter game. And then I loaded the window and I saw the graphics and I'm like, I know this game very well.
Yeah.
Oh, it's wonderful. Yeah, I think that was what made a good Flash game. That would be a good topic too, is what makes a good Flash game. But simplicity, I think, is what made the game. And just, again, that feeling of turning it off and just starting it up again. Robot Unicorn Attack, Bubble Spinner, Helicopter Game were all like that. Super Mario 63, I would always just play the first couple levels.
Yeah.
Because I wouldn't dedicate time to finishing the whole game. So in a way, it was a game I remember because it's this really cool fan-made game, but it wasn't necessarily as good as the other Flash games for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the last game on our list, I kind of want to save till the end. I'm going to say the name of the game, but it's important we talk about it after the Why Flash Matters section of our little talk here. But the game is called Alien Hominid. I never really played it that much. I recognized it. I had friends that played it. It's like a beat 'em up, kind of like a side-scrolling beat 'em up, very similar to Ninja Turtles in Time, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Time, where you'd like clear the enemies on the screen, and then an arrow would prompt you to go right, and you move on to the next section. But this game's important for a lot of other reasons, so I'm going to come back to this in the end. And now we're going to talk about what killed Flash.
Oh, yeah.
And you know who killed Flash, Tyler. It's your friend.
My friend of the podcast, Stephen P. Jobs.
Murdered it. Just murdered it dead in a press conference one day.
He did, yeah. Well, this was in like 2007, I want to say. Do you want to? I don't want to take this from you if you want to tell us.
No, I mean, I think it's an Apple discussion on our video game podcast, which doesn't happen that often. And you have the most intense feelings about Apple of anyone I know. And so I want you to have this.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody asked the other day in the Discord, like about Apple and a video game console. And I was like, careful. I'm going to go on for a long time about
I've
Apple and video
never
game consoles.
seen you post that much in the Discord. I was loving it too, because I was at work and I was just watching it and I'm like, oh, this is great. They don't realize the tidal wave they just unleashed with asking Tyler about Apple.
Yeah. You've activated my trap card. But so this, a lot of this hinges or centers around the iPhone. It was released in 2007, and Flash was out by 2007. It wasn't a dead technology, but it was definitely, people could tell it was kind of on its way out, because things like HTML5 were around the corner, and Flash games didn't require much of they didn't require a lot of power to run in a computer, but they didn't require nothing. And a lot of people when you run Flash games, they would notice their fans kicked up on their laptop, like their battery life was not very good. It was kind of a resource hog in that sense. And so Steve Jobs made a sort of controversial decision around the iPhone with the web browser, and that was to not include Flash on it. And at the time, like I said, Flash was still a pretty large part of the internet, and at the time, a big part of what Flash did was videos. If you were watching a video embedded on a website, it was usually with a Flash player. And so when they made the decision to not include Flash on the iPhone for battery reasons, and probably because it was a technology that Steve Jobs didn't control, there's like, they couched it in this like battery life thing, but like really, I think Steve Jobs just didn't want a technology he didn't control to be on his device, because it does require like something to be installed on the computer that's running it. Like, it doesn't just exist for nothing. Like, you have to install Flash and stuff, and so they didn't want Adobe to have like that hard of a grip on something in the iPhone. And so a lot of early reviews of the iPhone, you'll see like cons doesn't support Flash, and I want to watch videos on these websites, but I can't because they're Flash player. Nowadays, it doesn't matter. Every player is an HTML5 player. Games are all in HTML5, and you have the App Store for that anyway. It doesn't matter anymore. But Steve Jobs wrote a letter, like kind of an open letter to Adobe, basically saying, we're not doing this. Flash sucks, and good day, sir. And it was a big deal at the time, I remember, but that's really what started the downfall and death of Flash, because once that happened, like, that was a selling point of Android phones. They would say, oh, supports Flash, because it was sort of the opposite of what Apple was doing. But the iPhone was pretty big, and if you wanted your website or your video player or your game to work on the iPhone, you couldn't use Flash. And so you would have to remake all of your stuff anyway to not use Flash. And so by then, that was going to work on Android anyway. Like, your website would work on Android anyway, even if you didn't use Flash. And so it was just like, well, we don't really need Flash anymore. And HTML5 had caught up in terms of what its capabilities were. And so Flash just wasn't really necessary anymore. And there was a disincentive to use it on the iPhone. So there you go. That's what sort of happened to Flash. And I think you said it officially died in 2020, but really probably about 2010 was when it was truly.
Yeah, it started going on its way out, but I think it was stopped being supported by Adobe in 2020.
Yeah, there are a lot of applications that were still made with Adobe Flash for a long time. And the other thing, that this is also something that Steve Jobs harped on, but is still a problem with Flash and having the Flash plugin, because of just the way Flash works and how complex it is and how much programming and stuff there is in it. There were vulnerabilities, and so malicious websites could take advantage of a vulnerability in Flash to install malware on your computer or pop-ups or whatever, remember all those problems we used to have with our computers back in the day of like, don't go to weird websites, is because they were basically using Flash to get to like install things on your computer that you shouldn't have. And so that was another thing, is like from a security standpoint, Steve Jobs was like, we can't have this thing that we don't control opening up security flaws on our device. And so from that perspective, I think it makes sense that they would do that.
Oh, yeah. And that was actually one of the main reasons that they mentioned the decision was made, because, Apple, they're very much like, we're the secure people, security is our priority, privacy is our priority. So it would make sense for them to not want Flash, because that just would be the complete opposite of that.
Yep. And truly, it wasn't necessary by that point in time. It was like one of those hard breaks that that Apple had to do. Like, it's sort of like not including a floppy drive with the original iMac. Like 1998, floppy drives were definitely still a thing. But once Apple stopped including them with iMacs, the world needed to sort of figure something else out. And I think Flash was a sort of a similar thing of like, this is a thing that needs to die, but then somebody needs to make the call to stop supporting it. And Apple can do that. So they did.
Yeah. That's a very good explanation, Tyler. I like that.
Thanks.
So
Here to talk about Apple anytime, all day, every day.
All day.
We should make an Apple channel on the Discord. I'll talk. I'll be in there all day, every day.
Applex, history of apples. We're going to talk finally about why we think Flash matters. And we kind of chimed in on it before with mobile gaming is where a lot of those Flash games went.
Yeah. The same games that occupy that niche of like the simple sort of like pick up and play thing that Flash games had going for them. A lot of those are just on your phone now.
Exactly. And also, I think even some of those ones we mentioned, like I feel like there's probably either the actual versions or knockoffs of both the helicopter game and Robot Unicorn Attack on phones already. Like I'm pretty sure when I typed in Robot Unicorn Attack, I saw a mobile store pop up. I don't know if it was like Androids or Apples.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they capitalized on that. I'm sure all of these games have App Store versions of them. Maybe not Alien Hominid, but
Alien Hominid does have a mobile version of it because that was my next part is, so when we mentioned how a lot of developers got their start, Alien Hominid is like the true success story of this whole thing. And we could definitely talk about this studio as a studio based on their history because it's very interesting. But the Behemoth, which is a studio, got their start from when Tom Fulp and Dan Paladin created Alien Hominid and put it on Newgrounds. That's how they got their start. Now, the Behemoth is familiar because they made Castle Crashers, which is a very popular game, still is a popular game that my friends have also played and gotten into. And one of those ones they tried to get me into, and I just was playing other games at the time. I know this game's good, but I wanted to mention Alien Hominid on this list because it's probably one of the more well-known Flash games because it was this success story of how it came out as a Flash game and then was put on the PS2 and Xbox and mobile phone, and it was like everywhere, this Flash game. So it's really cool, that it got put on these platforms.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the last reason why we think Flash matters is it was a lot of people's first entry into video games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you're bored in class and you see other people playing games, maybe you didn't have a Game Boy or you didn't have a Super Nintendo at home, but you see somebody else playing games on their computer, that's pretty easy for you to just load up the same website. I really keep coming back to this, like playing Flash games in class or in computer lab because
that was our experience.
Yeah, I would love to hear other people's Flash game experience if they're a little bit older and still got into Flash games somehow when they didn't have a teacher telling them they couldn't play games, so they had to figure out a clandestine way to do it.
If you were like, oh, I was working in my office and I was ignoring my work by playing Flash games, we want to know about it.
That's right.
My company went bankrupt because of Robot Unicorn Attack. That's what we want to know. We want to know those stories.
Yeah. But you're right. Yeah, this was a lot of people their first way to play games because it was free. It was available on something they already owned. And they were probably, if not pressured, at least interested in games because they saw somebody else in their class playing a game. And they were like, I would like to do that, please.
Yeah, and I'm sure also for people that sold mobile games, like when these people all grew up playing Flash games, the jump to playing games on a phone didn't seem too daunting or weird.
Yeah.
At the time. It really didn't for me. Like, even when I got my first, push button phone before touchscreens, I was playing, Snake and stuff on there. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, this is a really, really good topic that I really want to put more time into in the future. I don't know if that will be the point of saying we're doing a history of the Behemoth with Alien Hominid and then we start with Flash, or if I do a larger series on Flash. Or I think the best thing is we could do is hopefully someone's written a book about this because that would be easier for us to follow along with. So I'm going to kind of look into that and see how we go because the little internet snippets I was looking up and watching and reading were really interesting. So Tyler, you been playing anything new this week?
Just Metroid, man. I'm still doing it, and I still have the same loves and hates of it that I did last week when I was talking about it, but I've gotten the gravity suit at this point. I'm pretty close to the end. I think I've only got a couple of hours left. But I am finding the boss fights to be a little bit more fun. They are definitely the kind of boss fight that's like, you load it up the first time, you get absolutely wrecked, and you're like, this is impossible. How could anybody ever do this? There's no way. And then you sort of start to figure out the patterns. You start to figure out where the safe spots are to shoot missiles from. And then, a little while later, after 5 or 10 tries, you're like, yes, you finally nail it. I still hate the ME sections. I still think the ME sections are stupid, and I don't like them.
I get it. It sounds hard. And your descriptions of the ME sections to me, I'm like, those sound stressful.
Yeah, they're extremely stressful by design, but also not fun, I think, which is, I don't think that's what they're going for, but I don't think they're fun. But other than that, we're recording this on a Thursday. And so Lost Ark comes out tomorrow, and I'm excited to check that out. I'm not paying for it yet because I'm going to be a filthy free to play casual on that one at first. But
me too.
Yeah, so we'll start it together. But we have some friends who've already been in there playing it, and so they're going to be way ahead of us. But I'm like, when Witch Queen drops Destiny 2, I'm not going to care about Lost Ark anymore. So I'm like, I don't need to spend money on this game. It does look fun, though.
It does look fun, and I'm glad you've made that, because I was thinking about paying for one of the Founders Editions, and then I was like, oh, are you playing it already? You're like, I'm waiting for it to be free. And I'm like, oh yeah, why would I pay money for this? Like, because I already had such a hard experience with New World. Like, I felt like I bought that game and I was really hyped for it, and it really let me down to the point where I was like, I spent $40 on this and I'm kind of bummed out about it, that I don't want to have that experience again, because I feel like the only, and I'm using MMO very loosely here, game that's ever really stuck with me is Destiny.
Mm-hmm.
But the more conventional MMO style of, like, say, WoW or New World or FF14, it just really, I just can't get into it as much. I don't know what it is about me. And so maybe Lost Ark will be amazing for me. Maybe it won't. But I am definitely trying it for free first.
Yeah, that is exactly it. So yeah, that's it. I think I did buy Pokemon Arceus, but I'm not playing it until Metroid. I finished Metroid. So.
Well, when you do, you can find my satchel, because I died and I'm really sad about it. No, I didn't die. I fainted because it's a Pokemon game. So right. No one can die. No one dies in Pokemon. Everybody just gets very fainted.
Let's get all tuckered out.
Get all tuckered out and take a nap after Charizard burns you with his fire. So,
what have you been playing, Mike?
It's all Pokemon Arceus. That's all I've been playing. I've tried to pick up other games right now, and I'm just like, I don't want to play this. I just want to go be a Pokebiologist, and that's what I've been doing. And it's been so fun. So, and I think I beat, tonight I beat the 3rd boss. I'm not saying anything more than that because you haven't played the game yet, Tyler, so I don't want to talk about what the boss battles are, but it's really fun, and
there's at least 3 bosses. Spoilers, man.
I know, right? Oh man, such spoilers. But I'm really enjoying it. I've also been getting into it where I'm watching videos on it on YouTube when I'm not home or when I'm not playing it, so I can learn more about it. So when I do jump on, I'm min-maxing my time, and getting the most money. Because the cool thing about this Pokemon game is I feel like money is actually useful. You actually want to use your money and buy stuff to save time.
You don't just get infinite money by the end of the game?
Yeah, it's not like Pokemon, a normal game where you're like, I have 500,000 and I am a kid. I am just roaming the streets.
With $500,000.
Yeah.
Dollars.
But it's really fun. So, but now we got some emails to read.
Oh boy.
And I'm going to read the first email. It's from Rar Chickens. What a great name.
Wow.
There's no subject. It says, yo dudes, longtime listener, etc., etc. I've recently listened to your extremely informative and enjoyable episode about Nuzlocke challenges, and towards the end, Mike asked about any ideas for future episodes. I did. This is exciting. Okay, one of my favorites isn't game-specific, but rather the act of completing a game with various accessories rather than your standard controller. I'm just going to take a break here and say I love this idea. Okay, here we go. I'm talking Guitar Hero instruments, Donkey Kong bongos, DDR pads, and even the gosh darn Power Glove. There's more than a few rabbit holes to go down and enough content to cover a good chunk of an episode. Love you guys. Rar Chickens from England. I read this email and I got so excited because this is a great idea.
There's like people that do Dark Souls on a DDR pad or on a Guitar Hero instrument. Yeah, that's crazy.
I love it. I love this stuff so much. And so, yeah, this is a great idea. And I will definitely be writing this down. And it would definitely probably come up as like an in-between books idea because I think it's really fun.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Thank you, Rar Chickens. Do you want to read Sage's email?
Yeah, Sage's email has a subject of Mystery Man met on GTA RP. Hello, Mike and Tyler. I really enjoyed this past episode about publishers and games of the 7th generation of consoles. I'm a younger listener from what I've gathered from the Discord. So I was just getting into middle school when these games were coming out. Side note, I can feel my bones turning to dust hearing that.
Yeah, my shoulder just creaked when you said that. Just made
I was
a
a grown
noise.
man who paid bills when this game came out 10 years ago or whatever. You had briefly mentioned the community behind GTA role players. While I don't have the best answer, I can tell you my one experience from it. My friend and I had just watched popular Twitch streamers play GTA RP and thought it'd be fun to try something like that out, so we found a decent server and got started. The thing about GTA RP is that everyone just kind of goes with the flow after a while more experienced role players might have better insights, but from where I was simply rolling along with the punches. We met this guy named Ray, who claims he had well over 200 hours alone on the server, which we thought was kind of bogus until we started running into the other members of the server. Pretty much everyone told us to stay away from Ray, that he was bad news, you'll only get in more trouble, etc. It wouldn't be too uncommon for us to be doing something and then out of the blue a car full of angry people and guns were on us, screaming about how Ray owes them money or something. Ray liked to get into trouble by claiming, "I've got it all under control," when in fact, he did not have it under control.
I love this.
The three of us would constantly be held to gunpoint, tied and gagged, or forced to work because Ray tried to cheat the system and score big. There would be points where Ray would disappear for hours at a time, only to return with $20,000 cash for all three of us. And then there would be times where Ray would tell us to stay away from certain sections of town because if we showed our faces there, we would die from our association with Ray. He really knew all the ins and outs, but he remained mysterious enough to leave a lasting impression. Ray, if you're listening, keep being you. Or maybe not. Really look forward to the next episode. Keep up the good work. Tarantula Tookus, Sage. Wow. Thanks, Sage. That's a great story.
That's so great. Oh, I love this idea of Ray being just this ghostly criminal apparition that comes in and just like helps you and then leaves. It's like, oh, by the way, people are trying to kill you, so you should like stay away from there.
Yeah. It's like making a deal with the devil of like, here's a bunch of stuff that helps you. Also, the rest of the server hates you and is definitely going to kill you if they come across you. Yeah. That's so funny.
That's a great story, Sage. Thank you so much. Oh, what a wonderful time. All right. This next email is a long one, but it's got some good stuff in it. And it's called Nuzlocke, Soul Lock, and More. And this is from Kyle. And Kyle says, "Hi guys, Kyle from Wales. Hope all is well. You guys are crushing these episodes. Thank you. I restarted your podcast at Christmas because either had the History of Video Games Volume 1 and Volume 2 as presents." Oh, you received them. Ooh, that's exciting.
Nice.
So just finished Volume 1 and caught up with you guys on Volume 2. It's been a wild ride. I know I'm a little late in commenting on the Nuzlocke episode you did. Loved it, by the way. I do Nuzlocks with mates on a regular basis, so I've just added some information below on some added rules for some Nuzlocke variants. They all start with the same basic rules: first Pokemon in each area, nickname, once fainted, boxer released, and shift playstyle. But Nuzlocke Hard Mode, this is the first variant. No items in battle except Pokeballs to catch. Levels are no higher than the ace Pokemon of the next leader. No grinding. You cannot grind, which honestly would be kind of nice because you'd probably save some time. That's...
Well, maybe, or you just die a lot.
Yeah, well, it's hard mode, you know.
I guess you're right.
Die in the game, die in real life. It's getting real. So then there's another mode that also has no Poke-Center healing to make it even harder if you want to. Soul Lock, which is 2-player version of Nuzlocke. Both have to be successful in capturing a Pokemon on the route to go into your team. Once your or player 2's Pokemon faints, the other loses the Pokemon that they caught in the same route.
Whoa.
Oh, that's so sad. It's so upsetting. Marriage Lock. 3 sets of Pokemon in your team. Once one faints, the Pokemon they are, quote, married to also faints.
Oh,
it's so
sad.
It makes it so hurt. I make them couple names too, you know, to be like, oh, here comes Gene and Jerry, you know, he's coming in here. Monolock. Same as Nuzlocke, but your team has a type that runs through it, i.e. all 6 have to have water as part of its typing. Dang. That would be so hard. But the best way to play any Pokemon challenge is as a randomizer, where all Pokemon, Wild, Trainer, Gym, and E4 Pokemon are randomized. Can also randomize abilities and moves and even typing if you like to really mix it up. That could only get mildly confusing. Suggested challenge. Not sure if you want to keep this for an episode, but the Professor Oaks challenge is an interesting one. The aim is to register every available Pokemon possible, including evolving each Pokemon, before obtaining the next badge. YouTube recommends Chaotic Meatball and John Stone, as they do the challenge more justice than I ever could. Okay, so those are two people to watch. That's great.
Okay.
So now the next section of Kyle's email here is it's these quickfire questions. So we just have to answer really quick, as fast as we can, okay? And I've read some of these, but I think I can answer really quick. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Halo or Destiny?
Destiny.
Really? I was going to say Halo for sure.
I do love Halo. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think I've gotten much, much, much more enjoyment out of the Destiny franchise than Halo.
Okay. Xbox One or Xbox 360?
360.
That's good. I was going to say 360 too. That's good. PS3 or PS4?
I think I'm going to go PS3.
I'm going to go PS3 also. Game Boy Color or Game Boy Advance?
Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, I was going to go Game Boy Advance. All right. FPS or RPG?
Ooh, that one is hard. Probably FPS, but I love RPGs too.
I leaned into FPS so quick. Just instant FPS for me. Instant locked it. Okay. Mario or Sonic?
Mario.
Mario for me as well. Favorite Smash Brothers character?
Luigi.
I was going to say Link. Link's my favorite immediately. Go-to track in Mario Kart?
Rainbow Road.
I was going to say Toad's Turnpike from N64.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because it's so chaotic. And it's my favorite. Okay. Best controller of all time. This recently changed for me.
I think I got to say Xbox One. Or Steam controller. I love the Steam controller.
See, and I was Xbox One. I love my Pro controller for Switch.
It is a good controller.
It's so comfy to me. It's like one of my favorite things. I just love it. In your opinion, the GOAT console. Oh, this is really hard.
Yeah, greatest of all, I think.
Also, I'm going to say this as a rule: PC does not count as a console.
Yeah, no.
Okay,
that's silly. I think PS2. I think I go PS2.
I think I'd go 360.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's a close second for me.
I was going to say N64, but it's been so long, and it's realistically, like we talked about it with that one episode where we had to choose between like playing a game to get out. Was it to get into video game heaven? Like you play all the games, and then you can play any game you want. And I chose N64, and then you reminded me of Superman 64, and then I felt like a ding dong. So I think I'm going to go with 360 because there's so many great memories I've had on the 360.
That's a close second for me. On a different days, it might switch.
Who knows, Thanks for reading, guys. And as always, happy hunting for the butts of the spiders. Peace and love, Kyle. Thank you, Kyle. That was a great email. Also some great stuff about I did not know about that marriage lock.
Oh yeah, that sounds crazy.
That's so crazy, but I love it because you also make a little narrative about who's breaking up. It's getting sad. You want to read the last email we have here is from Ben?
Yeah. Ben says, subject is long listener, first time emailer. Hello, Mike and Tyler. My name is Ben, hailing from Quebec, Canada. I am a very big fan after discovering your podcast in 2020 when I was looking for a good video game podcast and stumbled upon you two. I love the details you get into and your own personal memories with video games and going down tangents of random stuff. I was wondering if you two have had any experience with my personal favorite game series, Gran Turismo. I have personally 100% completed Gran Turismo 6 and have competed in countless hours of GT Sport Online. It's a very great community and a very fun and challenging game. P.S. Going on the PS Move episode, I personally had one and had Killzone 3 for the PlayStation 3, and I played it with PS Move Online, and let me tell you, it was fantastic. The gun that came with the game felt great, and very good responsiveness of the move, and made the game honestly easier to play. Thank you for all the episodes with great laughs and great information, and to many, many more episodes in the future. Spider Fannies. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Ben. My brother, Gran Turismo is probably his favorite game, and he bought the wheel, the Logitech wheel with the gas and brake pedal as well. And they were separate pieces that were all wired together. And we played it a lot. I was so bad at Gran Turismo, but having the wheel and making it kind of feel like you're in an arcade was very fun. I think it was Gran Turismo 2 or 3 we had the wheel for? I want to say 3 that we had the wheel. We played 2 a lot, and then we had the wheel for Gran Turismo 3. And super fun. I love the licensing system. Like, I remember actually, like, that was my favorite thing to do was just to take the license tests and try to beat them.
Yeah.
Super fun game. I never got into it more than that because, as we talked about, like, my friends all had Xboxes, so I kind of diverted down the Xbox path. But when we were kids and we had the PlayStation 2 and the Xbox, which was a great time, you know, for my childhood. It was wonderful. We had a lot of nights where we would just drink way too much Mountain Dew and play Gran Turismo, which is great.
Yeah, I haven't played a lot of Gran Turismo myself. I had Gran Turismo 3 that I had a neighbor who had a bunch of PS2 games and his PS2 broke, so I don't know if we gave them to us officially, but like we had a bunch of PS2 games from him and he had a copy of that game and we played it a little bit. And I haven't really played anything since. I have been thinking about getting into it. Like, even before I read this email, I was kind of thinking about like checking out all the games because I think there's such a good like showcase of graphics on the system at a time. Like Gran Turismo 3 still looks good. Gran Turismo 4 looks great on the PS2. And like, I think racing games, but Gran Turismo in particular is like a really good showcase of graphics on a particular console. I think that's cool.
Yeah, because there's a whole thing. We could probably do a whole thing about Gran Turismo versus Forza as far as like, that's really the way that Sony and Microsoft would duke it out graphics wise, I think. So
yeah,
I think that's a good topic. But yeah, Gran Turismo is a great game. It's a really good favorite game to have. I want to go back and try to do some licensed stuff, but I need to see if my brother still has the wheel and stuff because that's what made it fun. Is that we were like 14, 15. You know, right when you're starting to like get your learner's permit, but we were driving these electronic cars at night, you know. That's a great email. Thanks, Ben. It's great. If you want to send us an email, you can go to codexhistorypodcast@gmail.com. That's where our email address is. You can also join our Discord. You can either send us an email for an invite or you can go to my Twitter profile @mecoletta and click on the pinned tweet. Top of my profile, that's an invite that never expires. Tyler is on Twitter @SneakerElfELPH. Think that's pretty much it?
I think so.
All right. Well, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled Ultimate History of Video Games talk next week. Thank you so much. Do you want to say bye to everybody, Tyler?
Goodbye, everybody.